Welcome, Board Game Soloist, Always Game Solo. J. Allen Recker here. Today we're doing an unboxing of Bloodborne, the board game Chalice Dungeon. You might not know what this is, but I'll describe it to you first. A little story time. So, years ago, the game steward had a sale on a bundle of Bloodborne, the board game, and I decided to give it a shot. I'd heard good things about it, and I was just trying out a lot of new games, and especially this sort of, mini style game. It looks kind of like a beer and pretzel game. It looks kind of like Zombicide. It is not. But I decided to give this a try, and it didn't quite work for me. And I figured out in revisiting it some of the problem. Some of the problem is that you play with a deck of cards instead of a campaign book, and I would really usually prefer neither a big fast stack of cards or a campaign book. But the problem is that I was playing on a small card table, and as you go through different quests, you make a different stack of cards for each of them, and I think it was just frustrating me more than I realized, and I've since seen that as a pattern, where I subconsciously start to dislike a game because of the discomfort of and frustration of trying to fit it on the table. Also, I didn't fully understand the flow of this game, and that is not a me thing. That is, this game has a very difficult or very strange game flow. Well, I came back to it years later after having played a bunch of tougher games. Like, people talk about how hard Bloodborne is, and it is hard if you go into it thinking that it's going to be a dungeon crawler. But I came back to it after having played a lot more difficult games, making myself a little note on the flow so that the first time I played it, I never understood how to fight multiple enemies in the same square. It was like that bad. And I had watched a bunch of videos, and I would feel like I understood it, and I'd sit down at the table, and I would not. But I got it figured out, and I love this game. I just played through a campaign, and I decided, kind of what's considered the intro campaign, the Long Hunt, and I decided to do another campaign. But then I'm looking at these characters, and the threaded cane is really exciting to me. When you dodge, deal 1 extra damage at all enemies within a space. Now you have there's a deck building aspect to this, where every time you go to the Hunter's Dream, which happens either when you die or when you decide to because you have enough resources to upgrade your cards, and you can't get any more because you can only have 3 at a time. So any other kills you make are wasted because they won't result in upgrades. So on this side, so the cards do different things like dodging. When you dodge, deal 1 damage. So that makes your dodge a powerful way to finish off enemies, even though normally it can seem like a bit of wasted card as far as damage output. And here, stagger can affect enemy attacks at the same speed. So I played the other 2 characters in the core box last time. On this one, on kill, draw 1, heal 1. That's really useful. Attacks with stagger also deal +1. So I'm looking at these and I'm like, well, if I'm deck building, I'm going to try to get stagger on this one and stagger on this one. So I'm like, but I know that I've got more. And that more is found in Chalice Dungeon. Chalice Dungeon is, if I can get some of this. Nope, can't. It's the highlight. Chalice Dungeon has like the same amount of content as the base game as far as characters. It's got the same amount of monsters. It gives you 5 extra bosses. It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 extra mobs, which are represented as these, and then of course they're miniatures, which are very representative from what I've seen of the game. I never played the game because I haven't played PlayStation past PlayStation 2, but I have played like Dark Souls and stuff, so I know the feel of the FromSoft games. And then it gives you, most importantly, a roguelike way to continue playing the game. I don't really care about the stories and the quests. I think that there are some nice things that they do, and I don't dislike them, but there are only 4 quests that come in the base game, and each one of them has, or 4 campaigns, sorry. Each one of them has 3 missions, and a mission is a whole evening of play. For me, it's like 2 to 3 hours. Some people play faster, but then I think a lot of those people are the same people who are talking about how the game is difficult, and it's difficult to get the flow, but the game itself is not difficult if you just sit with it long enough. You don't have to be a brain surgeon. You just have to go through all of your options, and you will see one that takes something from looking terrible, a situation from looking terrible to no problem at all. Anyway, this provides those extra heroes, so I can choose one. So I was like, okay, time to unbox it. I finished one campaign. I played through it. I'm loving the game so much that I had been playing like 3 hours a night. I'm going to just jump right back in and do it again. Well, I think that means that it's time to open Chalice Dungeon, give that roguelike a try and see if it's as satisfying, because it could be just as satisfying and without the fiddly campaign deck to deal with, which is not the worst. It's honestly not the worst thing in the world, but for me, as a person who does not really care about the story, it doesn't add much. So if this can do the same thing, now I've heard that this is harder, but once again, I don't find this game difficult. So if you are someone who has played Gloomhaven, Spirit Island, something like that, if you are the type of person who enjoys Under Falling Skies and you don't think it's tough, you don't think it's lucky, because you sit and you think about it long enough that a good move always presents itself, then you will not find Bloodborne overly difficult. Now, what's in here? Maybe this is what knocks it up a notch, and it makes me regret saying that. So, the Chalice Dungeon apparently is something in the game Bloodborne, a series of kind of randomized dungeons where you could level your character and play like extra New Game Plus stuff. Moving this is all core box stuff. Without going through story. Like once the story ran out, it gave you something that you could still play. It was a series of dungeons where you were throwing levers and progressing to fight a boss. So you pick, just like this, or you randomly choose, is what I plan to do, 3 mobs, which are all wonderfully different, and they each have 2 sides that play differently. And Kwan actually did, for all the base game mobs, make an extra card that you can download. You know how they used to, at least, always have extra stuff, like extra zombicide missions or whatever that you could download. Well, that's this, and that's one thing that bugs me. I wish that I like some things that happen because it's in the deck. I almost wish that it was just a campaign book so you could get those extra missions, which would make them not feel as limited. I'm actually considering, after having sold off all the extra stuff I got from the Game Steward thing, going back and buying some expansions. And I don't think I'm going to buy the Blood Moon box, which is like the Kickstarter's extra box, because it doesn't come with any extra campaigns. But I'm got my eye on a couple that have those campaigns, those extra missions to play. Okay, so we've got the rules for how the Chalice Dungeon works, because it is a different experience. Normally, you wouldn't need rules, because as you go through this, you get the rules. So you've got the Chapter 1 setup. It tells you which tiles you're going to need. It tells you which enemies to use. And you can see Hunter Mob, and then 2 random, and I chose 2 random from the base box. And then start of the hunt, reveal 1 card, or reveal card 1. And then it tells you when you end moves on certain tiles. So as you're going, the exploration aspect is, in order to find the things to progress to get to the end of the mission, you've got to find certain tiles. And it actually does really help move the game along and make you feel like what you're doing is going through the rooms is important. But that's not in this. This requires other rules to move you through the game, which is you're going through, you're throwing levers. There are chalice rites. Bloodthirsty enemies, right type, field, fetid offering, title, bloodthirsty enemies. Enemy and boss attacks deal +1 damage is the effect. Place player count +1 insight token on this card. Each time a slug enemy is slain, remove 1 token. Complete this rite when all tokens are removed from this card. So Chalice rites add additional difficulty to the dungeon, but offer rewards for being completed. Before beginning the game, players may randomly select up to 3 Chalice rites to apply their effects to the dungeon. So I'm interested in doing that because you're saying, well, why would you add difficulties when it's already supposed to be difficult? You don't have nearly as long, from what I can tell, to level up before you face the boss. And you are facing a boss. Like, these are made specifically for the Chalice Dungeon. I don't know if they actually made them easier. But typically, you're making bosses that you would have fought for 3 times as long before facing them down at the end of a campaign. So I am interested in seeing that balance. I'll probably play without Chalice rites for the first time, but otherwise, and then try mixing them in and see how it goes. So here we have the tiles. The Chalice Dungeon is its own thing. It's not the streets of Yharnam. Here you've got the streets of Yharnam. Okay, you've got a clinic, and then the streets are outside of it. You've got the central lamp, which is like the town square. In this, you are in a dungeon-y dungeon, right? You've got the arena. That's where you face the boss at the end of the arena gate that leads into the arena that is locked until you throw both levers. So once again, you've got to explore to find these levers and interact with them, which means spend a card. And you're going to have to bash a bunch of monsters on the way. Okay, now one interesting thing about this, which I will not be experiencing, is that you could play this competitively. I think I heard that this was kind of half-baked just looking at the comments. I don't think this was super well regarded, but these screens were for Hunter versus Hunter, and you would put this in front of your dash, which it is an absolute shame that not only is this not double layered cardboard, it's not even single layered cardboard, it's cardstock, and that's ridiculous. This game costs way too much for that. But anyway, you can make your moves, because here's where you lay out your moves and then reveal them, which is similar to what you have to do against the enemies. Like, you choose your move before you see what the enemy does. You just understand the probability because you know that it's going to be, you're going from this enemy action deck. There are 3 basic, 2 special, and 1 ability card. And so you can kind of narrow down the probabilities and keep things in reserve in the case the worst case scenario happens, or you have to play more conservatively. Or you take a risk and the game becomes hard, like people complain about. I think a lot of those people were just used to playing dungeon crawlers where you go up against an enemy, you kill that enemy, you move on. Especially there are plenty of difficult old school crawlers, but you didn't have that much choice over the difficulty. I mean, there wasn't enough decision space that you could really reduce the difficulty that much in a lot of those games. And some modern crawlers, command style crawlers, are pretty easy. And I'm sure that was kind of the expectation. Okay, so this is the box right here. We've got the typical mini story tray map. This vac form is utter trash. I should keep this over here so I can see what things are called. Nope, because it doesn't have the name on on it. So we will go from this. There we go. Okay, so we have the Beast Claw Hunter on kill, heal 2, and move 2. Wow, that's powerful. And it's got a fast, medium, and slow attack on both sides with an inverse of damage. That's very balanced. Let's see what's on this side. On attack, if you have 3 or less HP, attack gains 1 speed and 1 damage. This guy seems kind of amazing. I might have to play him. So the one thing that hurts me about having sold the Hunter's Moon box, the Kickstarter specials, is that it did come with, I think, 4 more hunters, and I do enjoy the variety that these give you. But I've got 4 in the base game. I've got 4 here, and I'm playing two-handed, and so each of those combinations can have a different. First of all, it's going to take me then a bunch of campaigns to get through them. Although Chalice Dungeon is a faster way to try them all. But to fully, get the full experience, go through a campaign, and just to try all the characters, that would be a long time. And then the combinations. All right, I don't remember how this was pronounced. Chicago. When you dodge, heal 1 and deal 1 damage to 1 enemy in your space. Wow, goodness! I'm gonna stack her with dodge. Now, the last game. I'll show you what I mean. So I wasn't confident about my ability to play two-handed when I started. I was thinking back to how I found the game difficult. So these are the 2 characters I played: Hunter's Axe and Ludwig's Holy Blade. So everybody has said that the Hunter's Axe is very boring, and there's not anything really great to synergize with. On kill, deal 2 damage to 1 enemy within 1 space. After attacking with Rally Strike, heal 1 for each damage that you do. So there aren't really interesting. You just choose the best cards you can from the Hunter's Dream when you're upgrading your deck. There's not really. They say this is boring, and I knew it was simple. So I chose 1, and then chose 1 that was more interesting. Each time you clear a slot, deal 1 damage to 1 enemy in your space. So dodge cards clear slots. You put it on it, and then you get to take it off. Every single one of her cards, except I think 1, was a form of a dodge. And so, I would be able to put a card down, remove it, and deal extra damage. And then also, some of them had draw. So I'd be able to draw a card, constantly keep the board cleared, be drawing new cards on a regular basis. She became just like this whirlwind of destruction. I'm interested to learn all the synergies from these characters. Eric Lang is a great game designer, great at making these asymmetrical characters and the mechanisms that take advantage of it. So, when you dodge, heal 1 and deal 1 damage to an enemy in your space. On attack, so the weapon switches as you flip it. It looks like this one catches fire. On attack, may suffer 1 damage to gain 1 speed or do 1 extra damage. That sounds bad, but sometimes you can increase 1 speed. You can take out an enemy who might deal you 4 damage, and instead you only suffer 1. And the same, if you deal with 1 extra damage, you might take the enemy out and spares you a turn. This is a game of low numbers. Health never gets over 6. Okay? Damage done doesn't really get over 4. I actually love that. It makes it so it is not a slugfest. There's so many games like Dungeon Crawlers, like a League of Dungeoneers, where you just stand toe-to-toe with the enemy and you just bash it out once you get to a certain level. You guys are just wailing on each other for like 15 minutes. You're not making any decisions. You're just seeing who will get enough damage past the armor and the dodge ability to kill the other one first. I don't find that interesting at all. This is the exact opposite of that. Dungeon Universalis also is pretty much the opposite of that. Okay, Stake Driver. After attacking with primed slash, may transform weapon for free. That's powerful because otherwise you have to discard a card. After attack, move all enemies within one space up to 2 spaces away. That's a big number because on their turn, most of them, except for a certain type of beast, can only move 1 back to you. The Scourge Beast can move 2 back to you. That makes that monster so annoying. I'm so glad to not be playing with it on this one. Although I've got some with poison. You guys know how I feel about poison. So anyway, Detonate does 4 damage and then throws other enemies away from you. And then you gotta flip it again. Okay, the Rifle Spear. Enemy moves into space, place 1 card face down in 1 slot to deal them 2 damage if an enemy moves into your space. There are guns that do that, but having that ability with you half the time, whenever you're on this side of your weapon, very powerful. Because usually when you're dealing damage to an enemy, they're always attacking you back. And so you're always trying to figure out how to stagger them before they can hit you, how to kill them before they can hit you back. So to be able to do damage without taking any retribution is powerful. On the other side, attack deals 1+1 damage for each move action taken this round. So when you come in running with your spear, you got a bit of a spear charge. Okay, so one of those I'm probably going to pair up with Threaded Cane. Saw Cleaver is obviously the classic because Saw Cleaver dude's on the box. But first time I played the game years ago, I did play with him. So I have played with him before. So the extra 4 characters, here is the Stake Driver. These are nice looking, small, 1-inch minis, which make them very useful for using with other games. The Chicago. The Rifle Spear. And the Beast Claw. So I see he's got one kind of makeshift weird looking claw and one actual gigantic clawed hand. Okay, other than that, we've got a Gravekeeper Scorpion. Whoa, we've got a mob of it, so we have 4 of those. 4 Bell Ringers. Four Keepers of the Old Lords. For Rabid Dogs. Well, that's just kind of sad, honestly. That kind of makes me sad. Beast Possessed Soul. I think this is a boss then, because there's only one. Here are the ability cards. So it tells you what a basic attack is, what a special attack is, and what a ability is. Remember, those are things that you can draw on the enemy actions. You don't know what they're going to do, though, until you flip that over after you've already chosen your attack. So the monsters each have that, and it's two-sided. So you've got, like I said, you've got a little bit of variety there. These are the boss hit point cards. And here are the boss, like, AI decks. So they get their own special deck in 2 phases. So you see this is a phase 2. So this one does tougher attacks. Forgot to call it my trusty board game opening knife. So I'm at a new table, and this new table has a side table, and the side table is unbelievably game-changing instead of the tiny little tray. So you see, we've got phase 1 here, 7, 13, 16, 20, depending on the player count. I've been playing at 2. 3 certainly would be doable, but the game seems to be, it punishes you a bit because the switchover of when more bad things happen, is at 3. So I've been playing 2. It takes up a lot of table space, the dashes, so especially since they're not that sort of 2-layer cardboard, which would actually hold it. So you can see that it actually has fewer hit points on side 2, but then he hits harder. So he's damaged, he's injured, but he hits harder. And here are those rights. Enfeebled speed. Hunter attacks hit only after enemy attacks with the same speed. You may discard consumables. For each consumable discarded, remove 1 token from this card. So you're going to want to go for the treasure chest, which you might not waste your time with all the time otherwise. I think that those... You got some guns. Those are kind of single use until you either recharge them or... so this one you have to discard a card to refresh, or till you go to the hunter stream. I think that the Chalice rights are going to add nice variability. Okay, so here we have the labyrinth rats. So we've got 4 labyrinth rats. These are nasty looking creatures. Let me get a little more light on them. Can't actually tell because I can't see the screen. We've got 4 of those. I've definitely faced these in Dark Souls games. They're way tougher than a rat should be. For hunting dogs, I'd rather face off against a hunting dog than a rabid dog. It's got all sorts of spikes. It looks like almost straps to it. And then a bladed weapon in its mouth. That's kind of amazing. And knives tied to its feet, like a fighting rooster. Okay, so here we have the other bosses. Here is the watchdog. That's glaring. Watchdog of the old lords. Remember, we had the keepers of the old lords, mob. Looks like Beetlejuice when he sticks his hand in his head skin. Not Beetlejuice, but the dead person haunting the house that Beetlejuice is also haunting. The Thumerian Descendant. That's a very cool looking boss. That's a great mini. Yarnum, Thumerian Queen. sure she's tougher than she looks. So this seems like some sort of mega mob, because there are only 2 of them. I faced a creature like this in Dark Souls 3. This is called a fluorescent flower. I like these. Some of these look a little bit like Cthulhu Death May Die minis, but they make more sense. Like the Cthulhu Death May Die minis are so... Okay, I got this figured out. The Cthulhu Death May Die minis make so little sense that I can't differentiate them at the time. Okay, and here's the last one. The Undead Giant. That's a cool one. Okay, so... is that the right way to go in there? Sure. So there we have it. So I've decided to I didn't start my new, this second campaign. I just set it up. But I decided to interrupt, to unbox Chalice Dungeon, take one of the heroes out. And actually, I'm going to try Chalice Dungeon first. And I'm going to get a video for you about Chalice Dungeon, like a gameplay video about, of Chalice Dungeon, at least one, probably a couple. And then I plan on recording the second campaign, which is called Growing Madness. So, it's after the long hunt. Although they don't go in chronological order, it's just the second position in the box. I don't think they're even arranged by difficulty except the long hunt, which is the easiest. Which maybe is why I'm saying that I don't think that the game is that hard. I mean, I think it's hard. I think that if you stop and think about it, about what every move, that you will find the right move. That's what I love most in games, is when it can go from looking like hopeless, like you're about to get wrecked, to you play a perfect round because you sit there and you go through all the possibilities. That makes me feel so smart. It makes me feel so clever. And it's really just a matter of brute forcing it and running through all the possibilities in your head. And that is my favorite thing in board games, and Bloodborne has that in spades. And I think it's something that hasn't been talked about enough in the reviews. I think people looked at it like a standard dungeon crawler, like maybe like a standard come on game. I think it's its own thing. Or looked at it like Bloodborne, and was it close enough to the Bloodborne video game? But I don't have that problem. The other two I could have, but I don't, because I see what Bloodborne is. What it's trying to do, and I can tell that, and I just enjoy what it does. So I hope to be able to convey that to you. You may not enjoy what it does, but to know what it's doing and why it does what it does well. Then you have to decide if that's going to be for you. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to get some gameplay. This is the Eternal. Expansion. If I love this, maybe I won't go back and buy some of the expansions that I sold. Wouldn't that be amazing? It wouldn't feel like as much of a mistake. Except, here's the thing. You get to choose your mobs in this. And all those expansions come with juicy new mobs. So we'll see. I'm really looking forward to this. I've been loving every play of Bloodborne, the board game, and I hope to be able to show you why I'm loving it so much. That's it for this unboxing. Obviously, it's not just an unboxing. I went on a very long ramble. But I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day. And remember to always game solo.